I still remember the day our group of friends stumbled upon that ancient tome like it was yesterday. We were all in our early 20s, bonding over our shared love for retro cartoons and obscure horror films. Our weekly gatherings had become a tradition, with each of us contributing to the ever-growing collection of weird and wonderful trinkets we'd found along the way. My friends Alex, Emma, Matt, and I had been scouring thrift stores, flea markets, and garage sales for months, searching for that one item that would bring our little gathering to the next level. We were a quirky bunch, but we knew each other's tastes well enough to know what the others would appreciate. It was on one of those fateful Sundays, huddled around my old Nintendo 64 in Alex's cramped apartment, surrounded by stacks of dusty VHS tapes and vintage toys, that Emma suddenly let out a squeal of excitement. "Guys, look!" she exclaimed, her eyes fixed on the shelf behind me. I turned to see what had caught her attention, an ancient-looking book with leather-bound pages, adorned in strange symbols that seemed to shift and writhe like living serpents. The cover was made from a thick, scaly material that looked almost like human skin. I couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching us. "What is this thing?" Matt asked, his voice barely above a whisper as he reached out a tentative hand to touch the book's cover. Emma shook her head, her eyes wide with unease. "I don't know," she replied, "but I think we should leave it alone." That was the moment when our lives changed forever. We exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what to make of this mysterious artifact, but something about it drew us in, a morbid curiosity that we couldn't quite explain. As I gazed at the book, its symbols began to shift and rearrange themselves, spelling out a message that seemed to whisper directly into my mind. "Turn the page." With a sense of trepidation, Alex reached for the book's cover, his fingers hesitating just inches from the opening. The air around us grew heavy with anticipation as we collectively held our breath. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" I asked, trying to sound calmer than I felt. But it was too late. With a sudden, sharp motion, Alex flung open the book's cover, releasing a faint whisper of smoke that seemed to carry itself away into the night air. We exchanged uneasy glances, and that was when we knew we were in this together now. As the days passed, our fascination with the ancient tome only grew stronger. We found ourselves spending hours poring over its yellowed pages, deciphering cryptic symbols and trying to unravel the book's dark secrets. Emma, an avid researcher, spent countless hours scouring dusty libraries and online forums for any mention of similar texts. Matt, ever the skeptic, was drawn to the book's seemingly impossible claims, and he became obsessed with debunking its supernatural assertions. Alex, meanwhile, was captivated by the tome's eerie illustrations, which seemed to leap off the page in vivid, technicolor detail. And I found myself becoming increasingly withdrawn, unable to shake the feeling that the book was watching me, waiting for me to uncover some hidden truth. As our individual interests converged, we began to uncover a series of disturbing connections between the ancient tome and various retro cartoons we'd grown up with. It started with small things, a character's name or design that seemed to echo an identical figure from the book. Then we stumbled upon online forums where fans were trading fan art and cosplay ideas inspired by our favorite childhood shows. But with an unsettling twist, many of these creations featured twisted, surreal interpretations of beloved characters. It was as if some dark force had taken hold of the cartoons, corrupting their innocent charm into something grotesque and foreboding. Our research led us down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and urban legends, each one more bizarre than the last. We started to suspect that our favorite childhood shows might not be what they seemed, that beneath their sugary sweetness lay a deeper, darker truth, and we were determined to uncover it. As we delved deeper into the book's secrets, the shifting symbols on its cover began to take on a life of their own. At first, it was just a subtle change. One symbol would shift from a serpent's head to a pair of glowing eyes, only to return to its original form moments later. But as our obsession grew, so did the frequency and complexity of these changes. The symbols started to blend together in ways that seemed almost organic. It was as if they were evolving, adapting to our own collective subconscious. Emma began to notice that certain symbols would appear whenever she thought about her childhood fears: spiders, snakes, and other creatures that had haunted her dreams for years. Matt discovered that the shifting symbols seemed to resonate with his own personal anxieties, anxiety attacks, social phobias, and even a lingering fear of heights. And I started to feel an unsettling presence around me whenever the symbols shifted. It was as if someone or something was watching me from just beyond the edge of perception. The room would grow colder, the shadows twisting into grotesque, human-like forms that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. We tried to brush it off as mere paranoia, but deep down, we knew that we were being manipulated by forces beyond our understanding. The symbols on the cover had become more than just a cryptic puzzle. They had taken on a life of their own, and we were no longer sure who was in control. As we delved deeper into the book's secrets, we stumbled upon dark rituals and twisted magic that seemed to defy all logic. The symbols on the cover began to glow with an otherworldly light, as if they were summoning something from beyond our world. We discovered that the book was written in a language that seemed to shift and change before our eyes, revealing hidden messages and cryptic warnings. Emma became obsessed with deciphering the language, poring over ancient texts, and seeking out experts who might be able to help her unlock its secrets. Matt, meanwhile, became increasingly fascinated by the book's twisted magic. He spent hours practicing dark rituals and experimenting with occult symbols, convinced that he was on the verge of unlocking some profound secret. And I found myself becoming more and more withdrawn, unable to shake the feeling that we were playing with forces beyond our control. The room seemed to grow darker, as if the shadows themselves were closing in around us. We would find strange symbols etched into the walls, twisted, nightmarish designs that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. And then, one night, we stumbled upon a passage that made our blood run cold. To unlock the secrets of the Ancient Ones, one must first surrender to the void within. It was as if the book was speaking directly to us, tempting us with promises of forbidden knowledge and unspeakable power. We knew that we were playing with fire, but we couldn't resist the allure of the unknown. We had to know more. As we continued to delve into the book's secrets, the line between reality and animation began to blur. We would find ourselves lost in our own dreams, where the symbols on the cover seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Emma would dream that she was trapped in a never-ending loop of twisted forest paths, pursued by shadowy figures with glowing eyes. Matt would dream that he was flying through a sea of swirling colors, the book's words etched into his mind like a mantra. And I would dream that I was walking through a desolate landscape, the sky a deep, burning crimson, and the ground beneath my feet made of cold, dark stone. It was as if the book had become a part of our collective subconscious, weaving its twisted magic into the very fabric of our minds. We started to see strange visions everywhere, in the streets, on the walls, even in the reflections of our own eyes. The world seemed to be coming alive, and we were powerless to stop it. One night, I woke up to find that my bedroom was filled with an eerie, flickering light. The symbols on the cover seemed to be etched into the walls themselves, pulsing with a malevolent energy. And then I saw her, a figure from my own dreams, standing in the corner of the room, watching me with cold, dead eyes. It was as if she had stepped out of the book itself and into my reality. I tried to scream, but my voice was frozen in my throat. She didn't move or speak, but simply watched me with an unblinking gaze, her presence filling the room with a creeping sense of dread. And then everything went black. As the days turned into weeks, our grip on sanity began to slip. We would find ourselves lost in conversations that made no sense, arguing with shadows that had no form. The book seemed to be everywhere, its words echoing in our minds like a mantra of madness. Emma would spend hours staring at the cover, mesmerized by the shifting symbols that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Matt became convinced that he was being watched, that unblinking eyes were trained on him from the darkness. And I just couldn't shake the feeling that we were all trapped in some twisted dream from which we would never awaken. The world outside our window seemed to be melting away, like wax in a furnace. We started to question what was real and what wasn't. Was the book a tool of the gods, or a cursed artifact that drove men mad? Or was it something even more sinister, a doorway to another realm where madness reigned supreme? The line between reality and fantasy blurred until we couldn't tell which way was up. We started to turn on each other, our minds fragmented by the book's influence. Emma accused Matt of being in cahoots with the book, while Matt claimed that Emma was possessed by some malevolent spirit. And I just stood there, watching as the world around me descended into chaos. The book seemed to be laughing at us, its words echoing in our minds like a cruel joke. "You should not have looked," it seemed to say. "Now you will never be sane again." And with that, everything went black. Or did it? Was it just another vision from the book's twisted realm, or was we really gone? We'll never know for sure. As we delved deeper into the book's secrets, our childhood fears and traumas began to resurface. Emma was forced to confront her phobia of spiders, as a giant arachnid emerged from the pages, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Matt faced his deepest fear of failure, as he found himself trapped in a never-ending cycle of disappointment and rejection. And I had to face my darkest secret, the fear of abandonment. As we walked through the twisted landscape of our own minds, we stumbled upon the dark selves that we had long suppressed. The spiders closed in around Emma, their legs writhing like snakes as they chased her down. Matt felt himself drowning in a sea of despair, unable to escape the crushing weight of his own inadequacy. And I found myself standing at the edge of an abyss, staring into the void with no safety net to catch me if I fell. The book seemed to be orchestrating our descent into madness, its words echoing in our minds like a cruel mantra. "You will never escape." As we struggled to hold on to our sanity, the line between reality and fantasy blurred further. We began to question which of us was the true monster, the book, or ourselves. And then we heard the voice. It was a low, raspy whisper that seemed to come from all around us, echoing off the walls of our minds. "You will never be free," it hissed. "You will never escape." And with that, everything went black once more. But this time, when we opened our eyes, something was different. The world outside our window had changed. The sky was a deep, burning crimson, and the air was thick with an otherworldly energy. We knew then that we were not alone in this twisted realm. There were others out there, waiting to join us on our journey into madness. As the days passed, darkness spread through our lives like a stain. Every aspect of our reality began to shift and distort, as if the very fabric of existence was unraveling. The world outside our window seemed to be melting away, like wax in a furnace. Colors dulled, sounds faded, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy. We could feel it crawling under our skin, infecting every pore, every nerve. Our minds were filled with visions of madness and despair, as if the book was conjuring up demons from the depths of our own psyche. Emma saw herself trapped in a never-ending cycle of spiders, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as they closed in around her. Matt felt himself drowning in a sea of despair, unable to escape the crushing weight of his own inadequacy. And I found myself standing at the edge of an abyss, staring into the void with no safety net to catch me if I fell. The book seemed to be everywhere, its words echoing in our minds like a cruel mantra. You will never escape. As we struggled to hold on to our sanity, the darkness spread further, infecting every aspect of our reality. Our relationships began to fray, our friends and loved ones becoming twisted reflections of ourselves. We could feel the book's influence seeping into every corner of our lives, turning even the most mundane things into instruments of madness. And then, one day, we saw it. The darkness had coalesced into a presence, a thing that loomed over us like a specter of doom. It was as if the book had brought forth some ancient, eldritch horror from the depths of the underworld. We knew then that we were not alone in this twisted realm. There were others out there, waiting to join us on our journey into madness. Reality became distorted, and the friends started to question what is real and what is just a product of their fevered imagination. The world around them began to warp and twist, like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. Every experience they had seemed to be influenced by the book's dark magic, making it impossible for them to discern reality from fantasy. They saw things that couldn't possibly be true, buildings melting like wax, trees with faces that whispered terrible secrets, and skies that raged with storms that seemed to have no end. The lines between dreams and waking life blurred, and they found themselves questioning their own sanity. What was real, and what was just a product of their fevered imagination? They couldn't be sure anymore. The book's influence had seeped into every aspect of their lives, making them wonder if anything was truly true. One day, they stumbled upon a page from the book that seemed to hold the key to unlocking the truth. It read, "Reality is a construct, a fragile web of perception that can be shattered by the power of imagination." The friends looked at each other, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. What did it mean? Was this some kind of twisted joke, or was there really something more sinister at play? They knew they had to keep searching for answers, but every step forward felt like taking a step into the abyss. The darkness closed in around them, like a shroud that threatened to consume them whole. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything went black. The friends' minds began to unravel as they succumbed to the book's malevolent influence. Their thoughts became jumbled and disjointed, like a maze with no escape. Emma saw herself trapped in a never-ending loop of spiders, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light as they closed in around her. Matt felt himself drowning in a sea of despair, unable to escape the crushing weight of his own inadequacy. And I found myself standing at the edge of an abyss, staring into the void with no safety net to catch me if I fell. The book's words echoed in my mind like a mantra. You will never escape. As we delved deeper into the book's twisted world, our grip on reality began to slip. We started to see things that couldn't be true, shadowy figures lurking in the corners of our minds, whispers in the wind that seemed to come from nowhere. Our perceptions became distorted, like a funhouse mirror reflecting our deepest fears and desires. The line between reality and madness blurred, and we found ourselves lost in a labyrinth of our own making. We knew we had to stop, but the book's influence was too strong. It fed on our fear, my anxiety growing with each passing moment. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of paranoia, unable to escape the suffocating grip of the book's dark magic. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I saw it. A figure standing in front of me, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. It spoke in a voice that was both familiar and yet completely alien. "Welcome to your own private hell." I knew then that I had crossed the point of no return. The book's influence had consumed me, and there was no going back. The world descended into chaos as the boundaries between reality and animation broke down. The friends found themselves trapped in a never-ending loop of madness, with no escape from the book's twisted influence. The room around them began to distort and twist, like a reflection in a funhouse mirror. The furniture melted away, replaced by a sea of writhing tendrils that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, making it hard to breathe. The friends stumbled through the chaos, desperate to find some semblance of order in a world that had gone mad. But every step forward only led to more confusion and disorientation. They saw things that couldn't be true, their own reflections twisted and distorted, like they were staring into the face of their deepest fears. The books on the shelves seemed to shift and writhe, as if they were alive and hungry for attention. The words on the pages blurred together, forming a maddening jumble of letters and symbols that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. The friends knew they had to get out of there, but every door they tried led only to more chaos and confusion. They were trapped in a living nightmare, with no escape from the book's twisted influence. And then, just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, the world around them began to change. The laws of physics seemed to bend and warp, as if reality itself was being rewritten. The friends stumbled through this new reality, desperate to find some semblance of order in a world that had gone mad. But every step forward only led to more confusion and disorientation. They were trapped in a living hell, with no escape from the book's twisted influence. I stood at the edge of the abyss, staring into the void with no safety net to catch me if I fell. The book's words echoed in my mind like a mantra. "You will never escape." But I knew I had to try. I took a deep breath and stepped forward into the heart of the chaos. The room around me seemed to dissolve, replaced by a sea of writhing tendrils that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The friends were scattered around me, each one trapped in their own private hell. Matt was consumed by a tide of despair, unable to escape the crushing weight of his own inadequacy. Sarah was lost in a maze of twisted corridors with no escape from the book's dark magic. And Emily was gone, swallowed up by the abyss like a moth into a flame. I knew I had to find her, to rescue her from the clutches of the ancient tome. I stumbled forward through the chaos, desperate to reach her before it was too late. The words on the pages blurred together, forming a maddening jumble of letters and symbols that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. But I pushed on, driven by a fierce determination to escape the book's twisted influence. And then, just when I thought I had reached the end, I saw it. A door, hidden behind a tangle of writhing tendrils. It was the only way out, the only way to rescue my friends and escape the abyss. I grabbed the handle and pulled it open. A blast of energy shot out, enveloping me in a warm, golden light. The chaos around me seemed to recede, replaced by an eerie silence. And then I saw her, Emily, standing in front of me, her eyes shining with a light that was almost familiar. "Welcome back," she said, smiling. "I've been waiting for you."